on the screen. You probably can't see it. It's at the top right hand. All right. Good evening, everyone. It is 7:02, and I now call to order the 2098 regular meeting of the City of College Place City Council. City Clerk, please take roll call.
Yes. Councilmember Peterson.
Present.
Councilmember Espinosa.
Present.
Councilmember Williams.
Present.
Councilmember Cleveland.
Present.
Councilmember Sherman.
Present.
Councilmember Boyle.
Present.
Councilmember Jessup requested to be excused tonight. We do have a quorum. We're good to go. I'm not going to announce who is here.
Yeah, I just, okay. All right. Well,
We don't have to.
can you all please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
Allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right, thank you. Now time for public comment. Lisa, did anyone submit a comment in advance?
We did not.
Okay. If there's anyone in actual or virtual attendance that would like to speak, please raise your hand or press *9 to raise your hand if you're connected by phone.
See any, we have an attendee, but no hand raised.
Okay, then let's move on to the consent agenda. It consists of the agenda for tonight, June 14th, 2022, council minutes from May 10th, 2022, council minutes from May 18th, 2022, the joint meeting with Walla Walla City Council, the council minutes from June 8th, 2022's workshop, ambulance utility fund formation ordinance, the amendment of the 2022 budget to include the ambulance fund, the lease agreement with Bancorp for purchase of 6 police vehicles. What is that time? The April 2022 check register and financials, and let's excuse Councilmember Jessup's absence. Are there any items anyone in the council would like removed from the consent agenda at this time?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda. I'll second.
First and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it and the motion is passed. All right, so we have a big agenda, so let's just get moving. We have 2 proclamations tonight. It's open. Sorry, I was telling everybody to hurry up. Okay, the first proclamation is the Juneteenth Proclamation. So, whereas President Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation declaring that all enslaved persons in the Confederate States in rebellion free as of January 1st, 1863, paving the way for the passing of the 13th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, which formally ended slavery in the nation. And whereas news of the Emancipation Proclamation was delayed some 2.5 years to June 19th, 1865 in Galveston, Texas, where U.S. General Gordon Granger read General Order Number 3, announcing the total abolishment of slavery. And whereas President Joe Biden signed legislation establishing Juneteenth as a federal holiday in 2021, creating the first new federal holiday established since Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday, was approved in 1893. And whereas this June 19th has special meaning to African Americans and is called Juneteenth, combining the words June and 19th and has been celebrated by the African American community for over 50 years. And whereas the African American community in the city of College Place has made significant contributions to the history and quality of life within the city, the Walla Walla Valley, state, and nation. And now, therefore, I, Norma L. Hernandez, Mayor of the City of College Place, Washington, do hereby proclaim June 19th, 2022 as Juneteenth Day in the City of College Place, Washington, and urge all residents to participate in Walla Walla Valley's Juneteenth Jubilee put on by Color Our Community on Awareness in Pioneer Park from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. and to become more aware of the significance of this celebration in U.S. American history and the heritage of our nation, valley, and city. Given under my hand and seal as mayor of the City of College Place, Washington, this 14th day of June, 2022. Right, then, are there any questions? All right, then let's move on to the next one. It's the LGBTQIA+ proclamation. Whereas the City of College Place is committed to diversity, equity, inclusion, and mutual respect as a fundamental aspect of a healthy community, and whereas the presence, visibility, and celebration of the gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, queer, intersex, asexual plus, which is the LGBTQIA+ community, enhances the quality of life in the City of College Place, and whereas the LGBTQIA+ community has been the target of discrimination and violence based on gender, sexual orientation, identity, and perceived identity, which conflicts with the core values as a community. And whereas LGBTQIA+ rights are human rights, and whereas the City of College Place strives to be a welcoming and safe place where people, family, and institutions thrive, and the contributions of all are celebrated and valued. Now, therefore, I, Norma L. Hernandez, Mayor of the City of College Place, Washington, do hereby proclaim June 2022 as LGBTQIA+ Pride Month, given under my hand and seal as Mayor of the City of College Place, Washington, on this 14th day of June 2022. Any questions or comments? All right, seeing none, we're going to move on to the public hearings. We have one public hearing tonight, and it's for the closeout hearing for the 2022 Sidewalk Cdbg project, and Mr. McAndrews will be presenting on that.
Good evening, council. So the purpose of the public hearing is to review the project performance for the 2020 sidewalk project. It was funded by the Community Development Block Grant. It has a requirement that they require a public hearing to close it out. There's sidewalks on Davis, Bade, 12. The project has been completed. So we're here to have a public hearing. What's the project happens?
Right, any questions, comments, Mr. Peterson?
You know, there's something I've been meaning to just kind of casually ask. On Bade Street, but I drive up and down there daily, on the south end, just at the sidewalk, ends before I think 10th Street, or thereabouts. There's gravel that's sitting in there. Is that, what is that?
So I believe that was, this all kind of started before I started with the city, but my understanding of that is there was some storm requirements where we needed storm infiltration. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
Yes, yeah, part of the
Kate
grant,
Thompson with Anderson Perry.
Oh, okay,
Oh, here, okay.
She was involved in engineering, so I
There we
will defer
go.
to her.
welcome.
as part of the grant, we had to go through a federal environmental review process, and through that, we weren't able to make any modifications to the storm sewer system. And so in order to fit the sidewalk within the right of way, we had to push the curb and gutter out, and it kind of encroached into where there was an existing storm drain manhole that had a graded cover on it. So we put the crushed gravel in and some scuppers in the curb so that the storm water can get in there and still get into that and drain into the existing system.
Excellent. I knew there was a great reason. I was just curious. Yeah, no, yeah, and I've had people ask, yeah, the question. So, yeah, that's very helpful. Thank you.
It's a better explanation than I.
Now it makes sense.
Yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Any other questions or comments?
I'm just trying to figure out what questions the public would have for this
All right.
period. Maybe that's why they're all lined
So
up.
let's find out. At this
Yeah.
time, I'll open the public
Yeah.
hearing. Lisa, did anyone submit a comment in advance?
No, they did not.
Okay, if anyone in actual or virtual attendance would like to speak, please raise your hand now. Or press *9 to use to raise your hand if you are connected by phone.
No takers.
All right. Is there any additional discussion? All right, if not, is there a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Great, is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All right, all in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it and the motion is passed and the hearing is closed. Where it comes out before I know what I'm saying. All right, next, action items. Let's move on to the first action item is the change order for number 4 bikes, and Mr. McAndrews will continue.
Yes, so as you all, I think, are probably aware, our 4 bikes project was funded by TIB money, or primarily by TIB money. And we found out late 2021 that that money had to be spent by the end of March 2022, or we would have to get the money back. So everything kind of got in a hurry to push the project forward, and we moved quickly and got it completed. Through that process, there was a few, I guess, field directives that were made that, okay, we need to adjust this and make this change. And change orders were not necessarily issued at the time because we needed to keep the project moving forward. We were initially planning to use those as additional quantities in the contract, which is allowable. However, that coupled with some engineer estimates that were off a little bit brought us to, by the time of closeout, where we have $56,000, $56,520.70. At this point, unapproved overages, so that we had to complete the project. So Kate Thompson, again, who mentioned Perry was involved in that project. I asked her to speak a little bit to some of those overages. She'll be able to explain a little bit.
Yeah, one of the big overages came up with the surface of the existing utility tunnel. It happened to be the sidewalk was the lid of the tunnel. And when we had walked it prior to the start of construction, before the winter had happened, we kind of outlined where we thought the limits removal needed to be based on the current damage to the lid. When it came time to start construction, winter it happened. Mostly, there was some additional damage to the surface of that tunnel, and so we felt it was best to replace a larger portion of that tunnel lid at that time. So that is one portion of these overages. We paid for that as part of just the same. We use the same unit pricing to cover that overage. Another larger overage was a miscalculation on our part on the amount of sod required to go back in order to repair the existing landscaping along that area. So we did go over on that.
There are a few other less
There's some-
major
yeah.
overages, all kind of coupled, they're adding up to where we are.
Those were kind of the bigger items.
So at this point, in order to pay those overages, we need to approve change order 4. Does anybody have any questions?
So 56,000 gonna come from the funding that came.
No, that's the TIB funding was spent. It's a good question. We had additional, off the top of my head, I want to say it was $100,000 in additional city funding. So this will come out of city funds. Talking with Brian Carlton, Finance Director, we have the money available in the refund fund.
Will that impact any other projects on the schedule?
Not specifically anything on the schedule. It's REIT one money that could be put towards other things eventually, but no, it's not, we're not gonna have to scratch something else in order to pay for this.
Any questions, Mr. Cleveland?
No questions.
Mr. Peterson?
Is there a, when you're talking about the Lowell University start tunnels, is that right? That's the
Yes.
access to their steam, so, right?
Yes.
You referred to that. Okay, excellent. Was there a contingency on this project?
No, that
Yeah,
got missed. Yeah, that got missed. Otherwise, that would have covered it.
that's what I was wondering. Yeah, but yeah, okay. Yeah.
Anything more, Ms. Espinosa? Ms. Williams?
Questions?
Ms. Sherman?
I have a question. When there's something like this as a miscalculation, at what point would Anderson Perry assume any of that? Instead of it, when it's, because that estimate's obviously based on their, I'm just.
Right.
That's a good question. In this circumstance, because it was estimated quantities, had we caught it early on and had the conversation, I'm sure we would have issued a change order and corrected it. So it seems appropriate for the city to pick that up. If it wasn't a negligent error on behalf of Anderson Perry or anything like that.
This was one of the last items installed, so it was harder to really catch the overage point until that final day application.
Cool. Thank you.
Ms. Boyle?
I have no questions.
Is there any additional discussion? All right, I don't see any, so do we have a motion? Mr. Peterson?
Oh, Mayor, I would move to approve change order 04 from change order $56,520.70 for overage costs for the Ford Bikes project.
I'll second Councilmember Cleveland.
Any additional discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Right, unanimous, the ayes have it and the motion is passed. Thank you. Next is the administrative fees resolution update by Ms. Schmidt and Ms. Colwell. Who will be presenting?
We'll tag team it.
All right, you're up.
Thanks, Mayor. So there's just a few things in this resolution that weren't previously authorized by council. One of them is in section 2, the police department requested the change of seeing iDog to service animal, which should be in the red line version. And then section 8, for police department fees, we added the word nuisance to code enforcement infractions for clarification. And then we also added 8J, which is parking infractions, which was not previously in our resolution, but it was in our city code. It states in our code that infractions are a flat $25 fee for parking infractions. And the code enforcement officer and RE as well chatted and wanted to change that to a tiered system. So for first violations, it'll stay at $25. Second violation within 3 months will double at $50. And then the third violation within 6 months is $250. Ree can probably elaborate on why the changes for that.
And I'm happy to do that. Basically, we just have a few problem parkers, and the flat fee that we had before just didn't deter them. They'd pay it and illegally park. So we wanted something with a little more bite. The city does have discretion in any of those cases to reduce the fee.
And then the last change, which was previously authorized by council, is the creation of section 13, which is the ambulance utility charges. It matches the fees that were approved on in council on May 10th. And it mirrors the same format as the other utility sections in the resolution. And that's it.
Thank you. Let's go to council members for questions or comments, and we'll begin with Mr. Cleveland,
No questions, thank you.
Mr. Peterson,
No questions, thank you.
Mr. Espinosa,
No questions.
Ms. Williams,
No questions, thank you.
No questions. Thank
Ms.
you.
Boyle.
No questions.
All right, if there's no additional discussion. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to authorize resolution number 22-045, adopting the updated city fees and changes and charges for 2022.
I'll second.
Any additional discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, the ayes have it and the motion is passed. Next item is the Anderson Perry Contract Amendment number 2, Agreement for Professional Services for Lions Park. And Mr. Rickard will be presenting on that.
Good evening. So we're getting closer. So
This is like as long as the ambulance conversation.
no, it's not.
Oh, that-
We're getting there. We're getting
Watch
there.
your mouth.
Okay,
No,
so
but
I promised somebody here tonight, I won't name anybody earlier today, that this will only take a minute and 30 seconds.
Minute and a half.
So this is contract amendment number 2. We actually there's more than 2 contracts, but there's 2 major ones. And so this will amend the first contract for an amount of $552,500. This will get us to 100% plans. It'll get us through environmental review, which there's a significant amount of that because of the pond, the dredging. We'll have permits that we'll have to apply for the Corps of Engineers to work in the creek. There's the stormwater stuff, so we'll have a full stormwater design that will be covered under this contract. The timeline as it stands right now is that we'll get to 95% plans, I think, in the fall, 100% in like November, go out to bid, advertise for bid in early December, or open bids in January, probably late January, to get a good amount of time for the bidding. And then award in February with the project starting in March, permitting weather. So, any questions?
Let's quickly go through council members. Mr. Cleveland,
No questions, thank you.
Mr. Peterson,
Pretty clear sailing now. I know some of our conversation maybe from last meeting or year back, there was some concern about environmental impact, this and that. But things look, I mean, it's getting, there's more clarity now as far as what's required. I think you just said that, but
Yeah.
More of a recent development as far as how that's cleared up. Or it's about the same.
Well, now that we're at 30%, that's a good amount. Where next week we'll have a 30% estimate. We're looking at an increase of, I think we're hovering around somewhere between 4.7 and 5 million. Because if you remember from when we originally started this project, we were just talking about a playground and a splash pad, and that's what, our RCO grants are covering and the pond work and stuff. But we received grants from the Department of Ecology, that there's that $803,000 grant. So and that's the stormwater side of it. So that's part of the reason why we're seeing an increase in the project cost. But yeah, I think all of the, we've gotten all the information now. So now it's just figuring out exactly where the piece of pipe and asphalt is.
And earlier, you were correct, we didn't know from the one funding agency what was going to be required for the environmental permitting, but they have gotten back to us with that information now.
So that's been fair.
Yes.
We still have hoops to jump
There's
through.
still hoops. We haven't started that documentation process, but we know now.
Necessarily at this point.
Yeah.
Not yet.
Yeah,
And that's one of the third RCO grant that we haven't entered into a contract with because we have to complete those environmental hoops before they'll allocate us the funds, because they're federal funds.
Thank you.
Any contingencies? Are we gonna have any surprises?
Yes.
No surprise.
Yeah, I mean, of course, there's The engineer is always the low bidder, so. No, we've got a good team on board and, you know, yeah, I'm sure we're gonna see some surprises when we actually open bids. But just it's the environment we live in. Everything is more
This has
expensive.
been up for the people.
Ms. Williams?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought someone else was talking. Approximately when are we hoping to start construction at Lions Park?
So that would be in spring of 2023.
Okay, awesome. Because I keep telling people how amazing it is, but I never know when to tell them it's going to be here.
Someday. Me too.
And it will be a long construction window just because of all the different elements and the in-stream work. There's a period of time where we're only allowed to work in the stream because of the spawning.
Right. Thank you.
Ms. Sherman?
No questions. I'm just looking at my friend.
Ms. Boyle?
When you say it's going to be a lengthy construction process, are we talking the park is going to be down for one summer season?
One summer season.
Okay.
So we'll start in the spring of 2023 and should be finished in the fall.
In the fall. Okay. That's not bad.
Any additional discussion?
Exciting.
All right, I don't see any, so how about, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve agreement with Anderson Perry for engineering services for the Lions Park Improvement Project for an amount not to exceed $552,500.
A second?
Second.
Any additional discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it and the motion is passed. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item is the co-responder mental health professional grant, and Chief Demars will present on that.
Hello, Mayor, Council. Thanks for having me. We talked about this at the workshop. This is a mental health professional that will be assigned to work for the police department. They will be able to respond to calls that we will not be able to respond to assist with people in need in our community. It is a $200,000 grant over 2 years. And I ask your permission to move forward on it.
Thank you, council members, for questions or comments. Mr. Cleveland?
No questions, but really glad that we're moving forward with this.
Peterson?
No question, just comment what a great thing for a healthy and
Espinosa?
Yeah, just a comment. I think that mental health is something that needs to be addressed. So we're grateful for the grant and really happy to be putting it to good use in this program.
Ms. Williams?
No questions.
Ms. Sherman?
No questions.
Ms. Boyle?
No questions.
All right, is there any additional discussion? Is there a motion? Oh, wait, Councilmember Cleveland?
I will motion to approve resolution number 22-046 which permits city administrator to sign agreement to accept MHP grant.
Second.
First and a second, any additional discussion? All right, then let's vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, the ayes have it and the motion is passed. Yay, thank you. This is exciting for us. All right, the next item is acceptance of the State Department of Natural Resources 2022 Community Forestry Assistant Grant Program. Mr. Rizzatello, you are now up.
Thank you. So we have a grant from Department of Natural Resources. It's a follow-up grant to the Urban Forestry Plan grant we got for federal classified roads with a tree inventory. This will be for the rest of the local roads, including HOA trees and ones around the university campus as well. So this is just accepting the $25,000 grant from State Department of Natural Resources. We're eligible for it because we are a tree city. It celebrates Arbor Day and has our Arbor program. And if this moves forward, we'll get this companion plan done by this time next year. And between the plan from last year and this year, this one, we will then have a GIS inventory and our urban forestry management plan for all the trees in public and semi-public rights of way and properties in the city proper.
Right. Mr. Cleveland, questions or comments?
No questions.
Mr. Peterson,
No questions.
Mr. Espinosa,
No questions.
Ms. Williams,
No questions.
Sherman,
No questions.
Ms. Boyle.
No questions.
All right, if there's no additional discussion, is there a motion?
I move to approve resolution number 22-047, authorizing the city administrator to sign a grant contract with the state of Washington Department of Natural Resources Community Forestry Assistance Grant Program.
Second?
First and second, any additional discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, the ayes have it and the motion is passed. Next item is a federal classification of Southeast 8th Street from college to large to minor collector. Mr. Rizzatello?
Okay, thank you. This one will be essentially petitioning federal DOT, the state, and such to classify Southeast 8th from college at large as a minor collector. Right now, it's a local road, which means that we can't get grant funding for it. When I walked the neighborhood with the State Transportation Improvement Board engineer, he made the comment that because at the end of it is now the farmer's market and it connects over to College Avenue, that in and of itself would qualify it to be federally classified. So this went before Utilities and Transportation Advisory Commission, and they recommended to get this thing classified as a minor collector. So that's what's before you. If the state and DOT approves it, then at that juncture, we'd be able to get grant funds to go fix the road.
That's interesting. All right, Mr. Cleveland, any questions or comments?
Great idea. That road definitely could use some assistance and support. It would be interesting to move the farmer's market, every couple of years. Find a new-
Oh, that's brilliant.
No,
Mary will veto that idea, right?
No, we need the federal classification to keep up.
What's a little more time?
Mr. Peterson? Mr. Espinosa?
Can't top that.
Ms. Williams?
I think this is great. No questions.
Ms. Sherman?
No questions, but I know what our next workshop will have.
Ms. Boyle? This is like, don't do it. Don't even talk about it. Ms. Boyle, any questions or comments?
No, no
All right.
questions. Thanks.
If there's no additional discussion, is there a motion? Mr. Peterson?
I move to adopt resolution number 22-048 to authorize the city staff to petition the various agencies that Southeast 8th Street, College Avenue to Southeast Large Avenue be federally classified as a minor collector.
I'll second.
Any additional discussion? No one wants to give it the next street? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it and the motion is passed. Next item, Mr. Sotelo will be presenting is a resolution to accept the T-Mobile Hometown Grant for Electricity at Lions Park for the farmers market.
Okay, you. So I wish to thank Walla Walla Valley Blue Zones for this because they collaborated with us to pursue this grant, but we went for a national T-Mobile hometown grant where they help fund community projects like this. We were one of 25 across the whole country to get this. So it'll amount to a little over $42,000 to help cover the electrical at Lions Park. So that's what this grant agreement is for. And then just to let everyone know, but if you do come, let Lisa know if they're, well, yeah, because of quorum and stuff. But Thursday at 4 p.m. T-Mobile people will be at the farmers market to give one of those like giant checks because they need like a photo op and so forth for their press release information. So they'll be doing that, but this is just to grant me a permission to sign the agreement so we can get the 42,000.
All
I'll
right.
just go ahead and notice that there's a potential quorum in that.
Okay. Mr. Cleveland, questions or comments?
No questions.
Mr. Peterson?
Mike, you know, you may have already said, and I just lost, what time approximately? Would the T-Mobile would be there?
Yeah, T-Mobile will be there right at the kickoff of Farmers Market at 4 p.m.
Okay.
This week?
Yes. this week.
Yeah.
Mr. Espinosa?
Yeah, quick question for you, Mike. Are there any strings attached to this grant from T-Mobile?
The only thing is over at the sign, basically at the Lions Park sign, we'll have to put like a little placard saying they helped fund the honestly, that's going to be an issue with a lot of those grants. So whatever sign we have out there is going to have a lot of placards, but that's about the limit of it.
Okay. Thank you. No further questions.
Ms. Williams?
No questions.
Ms. Sherman?
No questions.
Ms. Boyle?
No questions.
All right. Is there any additional discussion? All right, is there a motion then?
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution number 22-049, which authorizes the city administrator to sign a grant agreement with T-Mobile to accept hometown grant for $42,328 to improve Lions Park.
Is there a second?
I'll second. Go ahead.
Any additional discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it and the motion is passed. Next item is a resolution of support for a State of Washington Department of Commerce Community Festival and Events Grant Program for Gazebo at Lions Park. Mr. Rizzatello.
Yeah, so State Department of Commerce, through their ARPA funds, they've made a one-time grant program to help with community festivals and events. And taking into account this one time, Lisa and I had a discussion about what would help that would be a one-time thing and not reoccurring, so as that we wouldn't be creating a new reoccurring expense with non-reoccurring revenue. One of the wish list items over it for a Lions Park project was either a gazebo or a performance stage or something to that hybrid, because we do have entertainment at the farmers markets, but we don't have a stage. That's been a wish list item for a while. So the motion to approve this would be a resolution of support to go after this grant program for the maximum amount per entry, which would be $35,000.
All right, Mr. Cleveland, questions or comments?
No questions.
Mr. Peterson?
No questions. Thank you.
Mr. Espinosa?
No questions.
Ms. Williams?
No questions.
Ms. Sherman?
No questions.
Ms. Boyle?
No questions. I love this.
All right. I know I'm excited to see it. It better come to fruition. I want to see it happen. So if there's no additional discussion, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 22-050, which authorizes city council support of a grant application into the state of Washington Department of Commerce Community Festival and Events program for Gazebo at Lions Park.
You have a second?
I'll second.
All right, if there's no additional discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed? All right, the ayes have it and the motion is passed. The next item is potential state SRF funding for wastewater projects. Mr. Rizzatello?
Okay, thank you. So this item, we went over at the last Utilities Commission meeting and they recommended that this go to council. So State Department of Ecology, they received a lot of the money from the federal bipartisan infrastructure bill. However, the issue with it is it's all loans and forgivable loans. However, the interesting thing is that we qualify for the hardship categories. So with these projects, if we were awarded the loans, they'd be 50% forgivable. So Department of Ecology, they've basically contact us saying, hey, do you want to go after some of the projects in the wastewater management plan? The key ones are in the agenda packet. There's some over by Lions Park, as well as ones in corridors that we'll be working in the future for roadway projects. Keep in mind, at some point, these costs are going to have to happen regardless, except if we get allowed into this, it would be 50% forgivable. So basically, the resolution just shows in general, you're okay with me having discussions with ecology, and there is an interest there to proceed with the dialogue along these lines to see if we could get this money.
Thank you. Mr. Cleveland, any questions or comments?
Sounds great. No questions.
Mr. Peterson?
No questions.
Mr. Espinosa?
No questions.
Ms. Williams?
She moved her like.
Sorry, no questions. I was muted, didn't realize it.
Ms. Sherman?
I don't have any questions. This is huge.
Ms. Boyle?
No questions. Great job.
All right, so we have no further discussion. Is there a motion?
Put into adopt resolution 22-051, which authorizes the city administrator to work with ecology staff to obtain funding for various wastewater projects outlined in attached documents.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any additional discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it and the motion is passed. Next item is the fiscal year 2022-2023 IMESD IT support for the city, and Mr. Rizzatello continues.
Yeah, so this item we went over at council meeting a couple of meetings ago. So IMESD, they provide their IT and VoIP support. So it's a shared staffing model. They help monitor our servers, they troubleshoot, they do cyber security audits, they do a lot of stuff. And we basically get it for a set price. Over the last couple of years, the increases were within what you would expect, within like the 2 or 3% increase benchmarks. However, they did a cost of service study across the board. They found that they were undercharging several of their clients because, see, that agency is created to help back up schools in Oregon. So statutorily, they can't be subsidizing agencies that aren't schools in Oregon. And we aren't in Oregon and we aren't a school. So based on that, they essentially came up with the cost increase. So basically, it's an additional $29,000. That now with that, because I was pretty irritated at the time frame they came to me, which is why I asked them to present to this body. Thing to keep in mind is Oregon has a different fiscal year calendar than we do. So our fiscal year ends end of December, they end the end of June. So in their mind, they were winning a budget cycle, even though we're in the middle of ours. So we fixed that where they won't be doing that again. But that still was an unanticipated expense. I will say when you look at what like separate IT professionals charge for the service that we consume, it's still below market value. I will say though that if it continues to go up anywhere near this, past this, that would come very close to what you could do with market rate. The issue being is that IT people are in high demand, and look at what happened at the city of Othello. They abandoned a similar service, hired their own IT person, and then a couple months later, that IT person got hired by Boeing and Moses Lake, and then they were basically without any IT people. And while I've done IT in the past, I really do not want to be wearing another hat. So with that, the recommendation is to proceed ahead with this based on how it's constituted, but we will be very closely monitoring this, and they know that. So that's what's before you. And the details, a lot of it was expressed when he attended the council meeting about a month ago.
Thank you. I feel so bad making you talk.
Yeah, allergies, but it is what it is.
It's a little bit like you're going through puberty there. All right. Mr. Kingman, any questions or comments?
No questions.
Mr. Peterson?
So it's stated as a dollar amount of 90,000, but it's actually, in my, you just said that it's 60's baked into the budget. It's really, we're talking about 29,530, correct?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Espinosa?
No questions.
Ms. Williams?
No questions. Thank you.
Ms. Sherman?
No questions.
Ms. Boyle?
No questions.
Is there any additional discussion? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to permit city administrator to sign amendment service agreement with the Intermountain Education Service District, IMESD, for IT and VoIP support.
I second.
Any additional discussion? All right. No further discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, the ayes have it and the motion is passed. All right, Mike, we're going to give your voice a little break. Next item is a voice over internet protocol phone system. Mr. Ricker.
Thank you. So a VoIP phone system is a voice over internet. Currently, we just have your typical analog or old school telephone system, which works fine. But it happens to take up about, I'd say, 12 square feet of wall space in our small server room, which is in the basement. And because of all the new AV equipment that's part of this council room renovation, we don't have enough wall space and floor space to accommodate the new racks and whatnot to meet code requirements, because there's clearances where you have to keep. So the solution, which, you know, we, in the next 5 years, we're looking to go towards this VoIP system, is to do it now. It'll free up that space to about, 3 square feet once we go to the VoIP system. And it's a good time. We'll actually, the changeover, we should have little to no interruption in our phone service, so we shouldn't have an interruption with our services. So there's a cost, of course. Intermountain ESD will do the installation for us, and they're providing the IT services for it and our long-term services with them. Currently, they do all of our IT support for our current phone system as well. The equipment that we're purchasing is the expensive part. I don't think I have the breakdown in front of me, but it's, Lisa, if you could pull up the quote from the phones. It's 25, something like that. So that includes this facility, the police and the police department. The fire department is already on the system, so they won't have any upgrades to their system. But all of our phone relay boards and stuff for the police department are in this building. That's why they're included in the upgrade. Any questions?
Mr. Cleveland, any questions?
No questions.
Mr. Peterson?
So this is new technology.
Well, it's not, I mean,
It's going to be voice, new hardware.
It's new hardware for us. It's been around for a while. I mean, it's what everything's gone to.
Right.
Yeah. So we'll have new hardware, new equipment,
New phones.
new phones.
Okay.
Mr. Espinosa?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions, John. Number one, did you guys get quotes from other service providers in addition to Intermountain ESD?
No, because Intermountain provides our IT support. And so we have our contract with them. So we're going directly through them because they are our IT providers.
So you're locked into an agreement where you have to get VoIP service through them?
Well, we're not getting the VoIP service through them. They'll do the upgrade for the VoIP. The system will be over the internet. It's not we're not purchasing like phone lines from them. So they use their vendor, so that the company that provided the quote for the hardware is one of their vendors.
And what is going to be the cost of phone service when the VoIP is in place versus what you guys have today? Do you have any numbers on those?
I don't have any numbers on those. Mike, I don't know if are you listening? Do you know how that might affect our, typically when you go to a VoIP system, your cost per line, let's say, goes down.
Yeah. Not that's changed over, ours went down.
Pennies on the dollar.
Yeah.
We did the same thing in our building, and we got some savings, so I just want to know if there will be some savings captured in the city.
Yeah, I honestly didn't look at that. I wasn't looking at it from the service provider and savings. Mike?
Well, I can quote you a little bit because I used similar equipment when I was over in Colfax. When we installed over there, the savings were about 60%.
That makes sense.
So my apologies for not having that as part of the equation, because that is.
60% something.
Yeah.
Ms. Williams?
I'm just concerned, I guess, because my internet goes down all the time. And so that's why I don't have voice over internet, because, it gets cut off all the time. And is it really reliable enough for the fire station?
They're already on a VoIP system.
And they're not having troubles with it going down?
Not to my knowledge, all of the emergency calls do go through the 911. But we have very reliable internet service here at the city, and it's fast. And,
can I get on your internet? Okay, that's my concern, is reliability. Is there a backup? So like if the internet goes down for a long time?
Well,
Or do we
honestly, we lose our phone service quite frequently, so.
Rotary phones die.
I don't know that it's not going to get worse. No,
There's a vote of confidence.
Killing go up.
I just picture, remember when, you know, like the Atlantic cables get cut? I just picture there's like one giant cable that brings internet to College Place. And if somebody digs the wrong place, we'll all be down for a week.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Sherman?
I also had a question on the difference in the charges. I think maybe can you include that like in an anecdote at a future meeting?
Yeah.
That would be helpful. But then we also just recently went to a voice over IP at my employer, and we have an app. Will this help people working from home? How does that work with public disclosure, where you can actually like make the call and make it look like you're calling from work, or accept calls on your cell phone at home? Is that, I mean, that's just typically part of this.
Just don't record it.
You will have that capability
Don't make
to,
a record.
to forward your
We
calls.
wouldn't really need to, well,
Well,
I
I'm
guess,
not,
yeah.
I'm
Right,
not using
yeah.
probably
Yeah.
proper technology, but yes, the system will have those capabilities. We opted not to go with the hardware that has cameras on them. That would have been an additional $5,000.
Right.
We just, I mean, if we need to see people face to face, or we can use our Zoom. I mean, that's-
We also have a thing, and I don't know, again, public record stuff where, like, and it's just a click, or it's just a button in our dashboard that we just get all of the voicemails emailed to us, so you don't actually have to log
We
in.
already do that.
Oh my gosh, I love it. So you can still do that.
Yeah, we're capturing all of our emails that or voicemails all go to email. They're all archived on the server.
I would never listen to them if they were on my phone. I don't listen to them on my phone. No. Thank you. I forward them to people at work.
Ms. Boyle?
No, no questions.
John, I have one question, or maybe for Mike. Is this gonna add an annual cost to our Intermountain contract, or?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
That's not come up. It's-
No,
All right,
There we
thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Well, I guess like, yeah, I mean, so they're just providing, or they're shopping for the hardware because they would then be servicing it if
Maintaining
something
it.
goes on.
Yeah, so right now, they maintain our existing hardware. When our phones go down, I call Intermountain and say, I don't call them.
You call them on your
I
cell phone?
send them an email. Well, I do call them sometimes on my cell phone, but they're the first people that we contact when maybe we can't make calls out, or calls aren't going in, people being busy signals. That's who I call. I don't call the phone company, I call them.
Okay.
And they're very responsive. They do a great job for us on that side.
It actually
Well,
seems like realistic.
And they're familiar with this hardware.
Yep. And if they're familiar with our facility and how everything's networked.
Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, is there a motion? After all that?
I'll make a motion to authorize the city administrator to approve the purchase and installation of equipment for a voice over IP phone system from Intermountain ESD in an amount not to exceed $31,000.
I'll second.
Great. Any additional discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Hi.
Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it and the motion is passed. All right, thank you, Mr. Ricker. The next item is acceptance of a Wild Horse Foundation grant for security cameras. Mr. Rizzatello.
yeah, so basically this grant will cover 2 iPod 4 security camera units, one at Meadowbrook and Lamperty, the other at the front driveway entrance to Home Depot and Goodwill on C Street. It'll just help the PD monitor our key commercial areas. So this will help pay for that. And then we have a private donor coming forward to pay for little satellite cameras to run off of the Lamperty Meadowbrook one to catch traffic at the Meadowbrook light, and then also at the Larch and Lamperty intersection. So those commercial areas will be secure.
All right, let's go for questions or comments. Mr. Cleveland.
No questions?
Mr. Peterson,
No question.
Mr. Espinosa.
Just a comment, I'd just like to say thanks to Mike for being resourceful and finding all sorts of grants to improve our community. Thank you, Mike. Highly appreciate it. It's great work.
Thanks.
Ms. Williams,
No questions, but I ditto what Councilmember Espinoza said.
Ms. Sherman,
No questions.
Ms. Boyle.
No questions. Thanks, Mike.
I have to piggyback on all that and say my gratitude to Mike, because every time I get a bright idea and say, what if we could got this? What if we could do this? He goes and finds the money. So thank you, Mike.
Yep.
Is there any additional discussion? All right, is there a motion?
To adopt resolution number 22-052, authorizing city administrator to sign the grant agreement with Wild Horse Foundation, grant for acquisition and installation of security cameras in the city.
Thank you. There's a second?
Councilmember Williams, second.
All right, any additional discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, the ayes have it and the motion is passed. All right, we're moving right along here. The next item is the approval to purchase those two I-4 pod security cameras to be installed in the city by Chief Damaris. That one was a tough one.
As you just heard from Mr. Rizzatello, he secured a grant through the Wild Horse Foundation to purchase the cameras, and I'm now asking for approval to move forward on that purchase for a pod camera to be erected at Meadowbrook and Lamprey, and also Northeast C Street, just west of Myra. These will complement the 5 other cameras we already have in the city, and they've been a tremendous resource for the city.
Mr. Cleveland?
I was curious how those locations were decided upon, and how long is the footage kept before it's overridden?
I believe the length for the video footage is 60 days. And those locations were chosen strategically. We had a plan, and we have future sites that we want to expand to as well. The amount of traffic that we have on Meadowbrook specifically, it's a leading area for collisions in our city, so we want to have some monitoring on that. And that is, and also just the amount of people that come in and out of that area, hopefully will also deter thefts. As you know, we recently had an armed robbery at the GameStop here. Although we were able, our detective has tracked that individual down, and we're preparing to for charges on that. We want to make sure we have additional resources in that area to monitor those types of events.
Thank you.
Mr. Peterson?
No questions. Thank you.
Mr. Espinosa?
No questions.
Ms. Williams?
No questions.
Ms. Sherman?
No questions.
And Ms. Boyle?
No questions.
All right, there's no additional discussion. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve purchase of I-4 pod security cameras for 2 locations within the city, one at Meadowbrook and Lamprey, and the other at Northeast C Street, west of Myra Road.
Second, Councilmember Cleveland.
First and second, is there any additional discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it and the motion is passed. Next item is the addition of chapter 3.30, prohibition of local income tax to College Place municipal code. Mr. Rizzatello?
Certainly. We talked about that at the last workshop. Right now, Seattle, King County, and the state income tax is prohibitive. However, Seattle and King County have been utilizing various workarounds to make that a reality. If they did bring forth where the state could do income tax, so could the localities. a lot of the economic development interest, they really want to see commitment from the local cities that the cities wouldn't be trying to institute a local income tax should a reversal ever come to fruition. In the Tri-Cities, Richland, Pasco, Kennewick, they've all passed this. A lot of the language in our ordinance is borrowed heavily from that of Pasco. I think it's important to make a statement on this, especially when we're so close to the Oregon border. Now, Oregon communities, they do have income tax, but they don't have sales tax. So really, all our calling card here is the whole fact that we don't have the income tax. So what's in front of you is basically to adopt an ordinance where we would add this statement to our municipal code.
All right, thank you, Mike. Mr. Cleveland, questions or comments?
No questions?
Mr. Peterson,
No questions.
Mr. Espinosa,
No questions.
Ms. Williams,
No questions.
Ms. Sherman,
No questions.
Ms. Boyle.
No questions.
All right, if there's no additional, Mr.
No,
Peterson,
no.
okay.
I move to adopt ordinance 22-010, which adds chapter 3.30 to the College Place Municipal Code entitled Prohibition of Local Income Tax.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Boyle?
Sure.
Any additional discussion? All right, seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, the ayes have it and the motion is passed. All right, we're moving on. Administrative reports. We only have one administrative report tonight, and it's the pavement rating report by Mr. Rizzatello.
Thank you. This is just an item for you all to examine. It'll come back at a future meeting. Really, we need a report that methodically goes over the pavement ratings of our local roads so we can prioritize better. Right now, it's really by observations of staff. Now, previous software company we were trying to deal with, they were offering this. However, the data does not reflect what is out currently in the field, which is very problematic. So really, the key thing is to get a consultant does this like day in and day out, so it's reliable. There's a company that does it like for Pendleton and then the Tri-Cities, where without maps it's 12,000, with maps it's 15,000. This was presented to the Utilities Commission, their last meeting, and they recommended to present this to council because it would be good to have it so we have a methodical way to deal with the treatments on our local road network.
All right. Sorry, let's go to council members. Mr. Cleveland.
No specific questions. Looks like a good idea.
Mr. Peterson, Mr. Espinosa, Ms. Williams.
I could give you the whole lecture that I gave my transportation engineering class about why this is so important for cities to do, but I will spare you that. It's a good thing.
Ms. Sherman.
No questions.
Ms. Boyle.
No questions.
All right. Thank you, Mike. Let's see, we have one informational report in your packet, so I think we're going to review that. We do not have an executive session tonight. How did we do, Mr. Carlton? We moved along quite nicely. All right. All right. Is there any other business for good of the order? All right, then do we have a motion to conclude?
So move, Councilmember Williams.
Second, Councilmember Cleveland.
That one I don't have to peek my eyes to read it.
So if there's no objections then, the meeting is concluded at 8:10 p.m. Thank you, everybody.
Hi.
Good night.
I don't. Can we have things where there's a light?
Boy, it's nice. Are we? We are, thank you.
There's wording